India must integrate 145 million missing women into the workforce by 2047 to become a $30 trillion economy. As per a joint study by Magic Bus India Foundation and Bain & Company, the country needs to increase its female labour force participation rate to 70% and build a 400 million women workforce. To elaborate on this and the key highlights of the report, joining me now is Jayant Rastogi, the Global CEO of Magic Bus India Foundation. Jayant, welcome to Startup Street. Like I said, 145 million women needed to meet the economic aspirations of a $30 trillion economy by 2047. How do we act on this aspiration, Jayant? What needs to be done to make this statistic a reality?
Well, thank you, Shruti. Thank you for having me. Let me just start with the context of the problem. See, the problem, overall, if you really look at it, we have, there's the FLFPR problem, which is female labor force participation. And if you look at the job equation in the country today, at any point in time, India needs 7.5 million to 12 million jobs a year. In the best case scenario, last year, we created 4.3 million. So cumulatively, we have a backlog of, 3.5 to 5.5 million jobs every year. And to make this issue even more complex, we talk about the China manufacturing story. So if we want to kind of get into manufacturing, I don't think, we will have the same kind of, job creation, because with the AI coming in, that will slow down. And to make this problem even more complex, it is the female labor force participation. So all this put together actually puts a lot of pressure to solve this problem. So we thought that, while this problem is really, really huge, how do we really address it? So we worked with Bain & Company to come out with a report which actually looks at the problem at three levels. So first is the complexity. Second is it looks at basically, what is the context? So we have urban India, which behaves very differently from the rural India.
Yes.
And the rural India, where 70% of the population stays. In urban India, we have jobs. In rural India, we don't have jobs. So the problem becomes even more complex. And then who are the key players and solution providers in this space who can kind of, address this problem squarely at scale?
Well, we'll delve deeper into each of these problems that you mentioned. But first, tell us at Magic Bus, how are you empowering girls, preparing them for future employment opportunities, and gradually then contributing to more inclusive growth for our economy?
Absolutely. So, see, our mission is basically to be working with girls. So we work with both boys and girls. We work with girls at the adolescent stage. And why I say adolescent? Because that's where the maximum dropout happens in terms of, dropout of school because of safe spaces, distance from homes, etc. So we work with girls to see that they complete school education. Then they have two exit paths. They can either get into higher education or they can kind of get into, livelihoods. And we have a livelihood program, which is one of the largest livelihood programs in the Indian, in India, which is around 2.5 lakh young people who are part of our program this year, with 60% being girls.
All right.
So that's us.
Yeah. And Jayant, like you mentioned, the report suggests that approximately 70% of the women out of the workforce by 2047 are expected to reside in rural areas. So elaborate on what are the barriers for both rural and urban women?
Well, see, on the urban side, the problem is less complex, like I said, because there are jobs which are available. And what we have to do is we have to provide employability skills and see that they get into jobs. Yes, there are limited jobs which are available. So there, your social return on investment is very high, because when you get $100, you are able to, put those many more people, train them and put them into jobs. But on the rural side, it's far more complex, because what happens is that there are no jobs. So what you have to do is you have to either be a job creator or, self-employed.
Sure.
So it becomes far more complex over there. And so you can't really work at scale on the rural side. And I think, there are a lot of things which are being done over there. But
yes,
the main point is that it is extremely difficult to kind of, work at scale on the rural side.
Also, Jayant, in order to address the workforce gap, the report also proposes two main livelihood models, the E4 model and the Progress model. If you could quickly tell us what these are.
See, the E4 model actually is basically the ecologically embedded entrepreneurship ecosystem model, which is actually talking about rural India, where 70% of the population stays. So, which is obviously, the more complex one, which is talking about self-help groups. It's talking about, self-employment, MSME, federated models. And the Progress model is about urban India, where, it's about skilling and getting people into jobs. So that's what the report talks about.
All right. Jayant, there is clearly an urgent need for ecosystem collaboration. The report calls for a cohesive and collective effort from the government, the private sector, non-profits and investors to create the necessary infrastructure, the policies and funding to support women's integration into the workforce. Your thoughts on these?
Well, I think, see, there's a lot which is being done, and I think the intent from the government is very, very clear. There are multiple number of schemes which the government has come out in terms of Ladi Behna, Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao, Lakpati Ladki. So there are multiple schemes. So intent is very, very clear from the government side. So policy advocacy which is there. The private corporates are also contributing by coming in terms of creating more jobs for women. For example, HUL has come out with Shakti, where they're actually encouraging women to kind of go and sell the products. There's Amazon Saheli, which is about local produce. IKEA does something similar where they're encouraging women to produce and buy the stuff from them. So there are multiple things which are happening at the government and the private sector. I think there is a sector which really understands the community has to come together because they have trust with the community, and then the implementation, the execution is the key part. And that is where I think the sector comes in, the development sector. So I think they have to work collaboratively to kind of solve this problem at scale.